it's way worse than I even thought.
I'm a bird, I'm a bird.
Ubisoft employees have gone on strike. I'm more surprised this hasn't happened sooner.
Executive at Ubisoft, and you wake up to this news, you gotta start wondering what next with this company, because it feels like every day that goes by, it's yet another knock against them. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Ubisoft employees have announced that they are officially on strike.
Okay, I want to know what the reason is. But before we do, what is your guess the reason is? Keep in mind, I don't know either.
I think I can speculate that they are literally pay cutting them or something, or making them work extra hours.
I think the reason is bad hiring practices.
This coming against a publisher that is quite beleaguered when it comes to putting games out these days. It seems like nothing can go right for Ubisoft. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article breaking down how Ubisoft employees have gone on strike. And shout out to Pirate Nation on Twitter who broke this news. Ubisoft is in quite the precarious position these days.
Yep.
And the recent developments only amplify concerns about the company's direction moving.
I mean, you already knew that the company is going to be in a dire situation the second they kept dropping one stinker after another. And now with the whole Assassin's Creed Shadow and them delaying it even more, the inevitable, and sinking even more money into it, it's basically them digging their own grave.
This is just basically a bad spiral going down. Like, eventually Ubisoft is gonna have to sell a lot of their assets.
Forward. A strike among Ubisoft employees has put the spotlight on the company's controversial decision to cancel remote work, which, by the way, for those of you not familiar, during the COVID lockdowns and quarantines, how
that's the reason?
Allowed people to work from home because they needed to get work done, and people realized that, oh wait, I can be trusted. I can do my job from home. I can work from home. I can do all this stuff and it still gets the job done and everyone's happy and fine. But then companies realize that, they have all these leases on the offices. They own these buildings. They're going to waste. Nothing's being used in any of them. And they're...
Wait, so they are going on strike because Ubisoft is so anal about their employees working remotely instead of downsizing their office and saving actually more money. Especially like your creative people, right? Like the designers and stuff like that. Working from home might actually help them creatively a lot more.
Wondering why they had them in the first place. The jobs were still being able to get done and their offices were empty. But as long as they were making money at the end of the day, they figured it's fine, we can keep moving forward like this. And then when the money stops flowing, then they start saying, hey, about those offices we have, yeah, we're gonna...
Especially then, you're already hemorrhaging money, downsize the office, save more money from that while your employees work remotely. That's just smart practices.
We're gonna need you to start coming in and utilizing them because we know it's a way to get people to quit. But we'll talk about that in a second. First off, Pirate Nation on Twitter said, there's currently a strike at Ubisoft for an indefinite period. One of the main French TV media talked about employees protesting against Ubisoft's decision to cancel working from home. The first guy interviewed has been working for Ubisoft since 9 years. He said that he doesn't understand the decision and that they had always been very effective even at home. For him, it makes absolutely no sense. The second guy is a union representative. This is the funniest part. He says that employees won't be able to release game on schedule if they remove working from home, and that they can't because of personal constraints, having to take care of kids, for example, things like that. And that's what happens when you allow employees to work from...
Okay, I have another theory. Is it possible that it's because they want to make sure they monitor what their employees are doing and making sure that nothing is leaked again?
from home. If you're a company and you say, hey, remote work is perfectly fine if you get your job done and everyone's happy and we're making money, there's no problem with it. And the employees get into their routines. They have
Yep.
kids, they get schedules, everything gets set up. And then the company they're working for, after all the years that they've been there, just decides to uproot everything and say, yeah, we know you were getting everything done and it was fine, but now all of a sudden we're not making as much money as we want to, and we need to completely destroy your life. And often
Yeah, it's like the more I'm like thinking about it, the more down the rabbit hole I'm going with my theories. Because it doesn't make sense on any level. It doesn't make sense on a level of efficiency financially. It doesn't make sense on a level of pushing the creativity. It doesn't make sense on a level of what Smash JT just said. They need to literally uproar everything, figure out what to do with their kids, redo their whole schedule, their whole day-to-day ways of how they work, just to go into the office.
an unspoken reason why companies, like Ubisoft in this case, decide to eliminate remote work is to encourage employees to quit voluntarily, thus avoiding the need to pay severance packages.
Oh.
And honestly, this kind of approach is evil as hell. But this kind of move is especially common when the company is facing financial difficulties.
Oh, it's way worse than I even thought.
Wow, they're actually pulling a rug under the employees.
That is so gross. I will, oh my god, I will absolutely not support this company until the CEO is gone. Holy hell.
And wants to avoid publicly admitting that they can't afford their expenses. By forcing a return to the office, companies can strategically reduce the staff that they have without the public relations fallout of layoffs or the financial burden of severance
Oh,
pay.
that's nasty.
It's a tactical maneuver that signals deeper financial trouble while flying under the radar. And in Ubisoft's case, this could be part of a broader effort to tighten its operations as it struggles with delayed projects and mounting pressure from investors. Not that anyone's really surprised here, because Ubisoft has been struggling for a while now, and a quick look at their stock price tells you everything you need to know about the entire story, just by looking at that chart. Now, in addition to this strike happening with no end in sight for it with Ubisoft, it looks like the initial delay for Assassin's Creed Shadows that was already pushed back from now to being kicked into February, Black History Month on, I believe, Valentine's Day, 2025, looks like it's not even going to be coming close to that release date as well.
They just keep pissing on their own leg. How can you be this stupid?
Well, Assassin's Creed Shadows has had a rocky history and development cycle. It feels like every step along the way, from injecting DEI, having the backlash with Yasuke as the protagonist, it almost feels like anything that can go wrong will, and in addition to the things you could possibly think of, other things outside of that that you never even imagined could happen to delay this game and make it worse are happening as well. This is on top of reports that Yasuke could be potentially taking a back seat to an actual Japanese main protagonist, and many people were speculating that Ubisoft was going back to inject that Japanese protagonist that was actually a samurai into the game that had been rumored to have been cut out during the initial stages.
Wait, so it's not actually a rumor? Because we already talked about it in our previous video, and I got a lot of flack for saying that they did have it. But even if they do, I'm not buying the game.
And the George Floyd riots. Almost like Ubisoft is realizing that DEI doesn't pay, and at the end of the day, they need the money to pay their bills. As the delays mount, so does the uncertainty around the game's quality and future releases. It's not just about Assassin's Creed Shadows. What they're working on in addition to that and coming out down the road is going to be impacted by this strike. Ubisoft is not only grappling with the internal unrest, but they're also dealing with a rapidly shifting gaming landscape, one where they built their entire empire on assuming DEI was the future, and they're quickly finding out that it was anything but that. Terrorism guy said, to be fair.
Okay, I wanna check one thing. I wanna check. The European Union does not directly pay companies to implement diversity, equity, and inclusion. but there are various grants, funding opportunities, and programs aimed at supporting organizations that promote diversity and social inclusion.
It's not the fault of the developers when the higher-ups force them to produce bad games every year. It's really not up to the developers to decide on the concept or plot of the game they are assigned to work on. And Termino replied to him, I would not take all the blame off the devs, but yeah, I'm sure it can be draining when the corpos come down and say, okay guys, time for Assassin's Creed 23. Dr. Pine said, I would imagine with their stock tanking, games turn to shit, the comeback to the office is a silent firing through attrition, and they are going to try to stay afloat until something pans out. And Smooth Insight said, working from home is a double-edged sword. It's a blessing for the productive and a paradise for the freeloaders. Devs won't touch that debate because it'd expose the slackers. Ubisoft delays prove it. If they want to keep working from home, they better start cutting the dead weight.
I really hate that comment. As someone who used to work from home, I ended up doing work, had to chime in and provide work for multiple people. And then at the end of the day, if I somehow managed to get done earlier, I was still called a slacker for clocking out earlier, even though I finished work worth of 3 employees.
Growing frustration with Ubisoft's direction here, with some arguing that the real issue isn't developers, but the upper management, which has been pushing out uninspired games year after year. And then you have the people in the community saying, no, it's actually working from home that caused this problem in the first place. That's why the games are uninspired. That's why they're not good quality.
No.
Because they are working from home. And there is
The reason why Ubisoft is having uninspired games in companies like Ubisoft is because the narration and the agenda they're trying to push under the consultancy agencies and their specific requirements, it just everything is being removed, and what is being added is what is bland and no one wants it.
is definitely an angle to that. With what it feels like the entire gaming community losing faith in whatever Ubisoft had going for them, and a multitude of critics out there in the industry questioning whether Ubisoft's long-term viability is even a thing at this point, the pressure is mounting for the company to find a resolution that addresses both its employees' needs and its business goals. And as of right now, it doesn't look like they're able to do either one of those things. Stable UI said, strike and no game release would mean a further devaluation of the company, which will serve to Tencent. Once Tencent buys Ubisoft, forget about inclusiveness, remote working, and to some extent, I believe they'll close completely to any French office. See the bigger picture.
I don't think they will close offices in France. So from what I've seen, Tencent actually is trying to open offices globally.
Tech Von Magister said, that's what happens when you have so many diversity hires in your company. At this point, Ubi is going through natural selection. Dreadnoughty said, so those Assassin's Creed Shadows fixes, reworks are getting done by February? Yeah, right. Stick a fork in Ubisoft. They're done. The prolonged disruption in the development jeopardizes not only Assassin's Creed Shadows, but like I said, other things in the future coming down Ubisoft's pipeline. Ultimately, the strike is more than just a dispute over the working conditions at Ubisoft. It's a moment that could define the entire future of Ubisoft themselves. If they can't resolve these internal tensions, they're going to risk further alienating both their workforce and gamers. And honestly, I know it's been a difficult road for Ubisoft up to this point, but it looks like this situation is actually going to extend that timeline, making it a very long journey back to any semblance of success if Ubisoft can ever find their way there in the future. And I wouldn't hold my breath based off of what I've seen so far. Anyways, that's all the information I have right now on Ubisoft going on.
Okay, the faster Ubisoft burns down, the faster someone can buy it and bring back beloved IPs. That's all I can say to that.